May 5th, 2021. Could we have roll call, please?
Here.
Present.
Here.
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 Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, excuse me. The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from our meeting that was held back on April 7th of this year. Does anybody have any changes or questions? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Garrity.
Second.
Second, was that you, Edwin?
Me.
Yep. Second by Mr. Paff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have public hearings for Grand Hunt Center Planned Unit Development, 6593, Route 132. Clara?
Yeah. So for the first item, which is a major modification to an existing planned unit development, GWV Gurney LLC is seeking a major modification to the existing planned unit development for the following. 1, increase the amount of developable outlots in the Grand Hunt Center to 8, with no more than 6 being located on a single roadway. 2, amend the sign regulations to be consistent with the Gurney zoning ordinance. And 3, allow a ground sign to be shared between the 2 subdivided lots. The property is zoned C2 PUD Community Commercial District as a planned unit development and is located at 6593 Route 132. In regards to the requested modification, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination, and the applicant is in attendance tonight.
Okay, as this is a public hearing, I would request anybody from the petitioner or members of the general public who intend to ask questions or give testimony to please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
I'll swear everyone in at the same time. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may be seated.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn the floor over to the petitioner.
Thank you. Mitch Golds, GW Properties, applicant and the developer of property. We purchased this property last year and working closely with staff and our tenants to put together a nice project. Here before you with request at hand. Happy to answer any questions. We are anxious to get started out there and get these tenants open for business in Gurney very soon. Thank you.
Questions from members of the board?
Presentation.
Is there more of a presentation?
Oh, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions. You have the site plan. We have the former Uno's property. We're marketing it to split the property to 2 lots as indicated in the request. We have a proposed U.S. bank as well as a new Popeyes chicken restaurant to occupy the 2 lots. The requests are for the subdivision as well as some variations with the signage and the cross parking that we'll have between the 2 lots, which is more than adequate for the 2 users that we have proposed here.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Reading through all the material and your applications, one thing that I did not see covered off on is the shared parking lot was 6615 West Grand, which houses, among other, the shipping point, and the impact that would have to that business and their parking.
The shared parking is not for that location.
It's shared between the bank site and the Popeye site. You're on another site further west is the shipping point.
Right, but I
They're
mean,
not-
taking
they're-
a look and driving over it's one continuous.
Isn't there a retention pond in between them?
It's a separate lot,
Yeah.
and they're not proposing any shared parking with that lot.
Yeah, there's no agreement in place now with that. The property that we have is one parcel. It was the former Uno's property.
And they're actually proposing to close off the access between the two sites to the north.
So the two lots that we're talking about tonight will be totally self-contained and
Right.
and separate from
Correct.
Right.
the
It's
property.
it's really just the Uno site. It's being subdivided into two separate lots. The parking is between those two new lots.
Right.
There's no impact to the building that's to the west?
No, we're not making any changes to that. No,
Thank you.
sorry.
Any other questions from members of the Planning and Zoning Board? Okay, at this time, I'll open the floor to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would care to ask a question? If you can please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
Jim Lamonaco, my home address is 1848 Pine Meadow Court in Gurnee. I own the shipping point, which is the adjacent property at 6615 Grand. My biggest concern mostly is the amount of parking. Will there be enough there to serve both a restaurant and a bank based on the village's ordinance for the amount of parking spaces needed per business? I'm concerned that there'll be overflow into my parking lot. One of the proposals and things I've seen is counting my parking spaces into their total parking spaces to meet code. And I'm not well aware enough of the code, honestly, to say whether or not they're in violation. I would really just like to have a dialogue about it.
But, excuse me, let him ask the question, and then
Sure.
I'll close the floor to the public, and then we'll address the answers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I'm taking I'm going to close the floor to the public right now. Who's the best person to answer that question?
Well, so there's a whole separate item about the shared parking later. Do we want to talk about that now, or do you want to go through with the requests that are part of this public hearing, which are the ability to add an additional outlot, the amended sign regulations, and a shared sign? That's what this
Yeah, that's
item,
what-
Tracy, do you have this? Can you put this on the screen? I mean, normally there might be a presentation, kind of show this.
That's not in the plan. That was just something that
Yeah,
I
this
put
one,
together.
what you're,
We do have the site plan.
here, there's a site plan.
Maybe you could just kind of run through.
So this is the
as
Uno,
overview,
this is
because
the
it's related
Uno
to all
site.
requests.
This is the Uno site being subdivided, proposed into two separate lots for the restaurant to the west, the bank to the east. Over here is the shipping point. It's not being included in calculations on any of the shared parking requests.
And there's not going to be a cross-access.
There is a cross-access currently, but it's not recorded, it's not memorialized in any sort of legal document. With the drive-through for Popeyes over here, it's being terminated, so they still have access into there. It's just not, the cross-access won't occur anymore because the drive-through for Popeyes, they would go directly into the drive-through for the Popeyes.
So the ability to,
You would have to leave this site, get back out onto the ring road, enter into the shipping point site.
okay, so there's not going to be, there isn't going to be the ability to go from one lot to the
Correct.
other lot?
Correct.
Okay,
Like there is now, okay.
Correct.
okay. Sure.
I was going to say, I think the confusion may have been that we are proposing to create two lots within our lot, with a cross parking within our two lots, and combined, our two lots have adequate parking, but with where the lot line is being split, the Popeyes lot on its own is relying on some of the parking from the bank, but is in total, we have more than adequate parking for our lots. We are not expecting any use of outside parking, and the parking code that is required within Gurnee is far more vehicles than what will actually be used. Over about 80 to 90% of the traffic for Popeyes comes through the drive-through. So most of the parking that's being required on this project is for Popeyes, but in reality, is not going to be using nearly as much, and the bank itself will likely use less than what's even required for that use. So we are not relying in any capacity on outside parking for this project. So, and the sites, while they're not directly connected, are all both accessed from the access road. So, you know, by closing off the access closest to Grand, it actually would further deter vehicles from coming through each property to adjacent properties.
Okay. And just, you know, just to summarize, so the discussion that you heard about shared parking was between what is now one lot that's going to be two lots, and there's going to be an agreement between the ownerships of those two lots to be able to share
Yeah.
each other's parking.
And it's common ownership, yes.
Oh, it's kind of, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we own both, we own the whole parcel, we're splitting it, it's simply for ease of maintenance with the two users that we have on the site. Does that answer your question, sir?
The only thing, I can't quite grasp my bearings on that. Do you have one of those?
The site plan, yeah.
Sounds like you intended to close that access that does go between the two lots.
Right, but the main access is on the Gurney, the center, the shopping center drive, that's, you know, because all the vehicles on this property in the center are using this access drive, so.
Okay, so Popeyes is going to be to the far west of the lot.
Right.
Okay, this is different than what I saw originally.
Okay. All right, going back to the planning and zoning board, yes, Edwin?
There were two site plans given to us. I take it that is the most current one? There was another site plan in here where the Popeyes and the bank were colored yellow.
Oh, I believe that was from the
Is that-
traffic report.
Is that in the traffic study?
Yeah, and this one is the most up-to-date one, correct?
Okay.
And that was addressed in the notes at one point, just a mention of that. There's a slight increase to the size of the Popeyes, and then some parking was shifted and removed based on the recommendations of our traffic consultant.
Got it.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There's three separate things here. Should we have three separate motions, Brian?
Actually, the template motion works.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
okay, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of GWV Gurney LLC to allow major modification to the existing Grand Hunt Planned Unit Development, PUD, for the following increase, or number one, increase the amount of developable outlots to 8, with no more than 6 being located on a single roadway. 2, amend the sign regulation to be consistent with the Gurney zoning ordinance. And 3, allow a ground sign to be shared between the two subdivided lots.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Papp. Any discussion on the motion? If not, roll call, please.
Al? Aye. Garrity?
Aye.
Norton?
Aye.
Cap?
Aye.
Riley?
Aye.
And Sue.
Aye, motion carries. Just so you know, we're a recommending body to the village board, and the village board will make the final decision, and Claire or Tracy will let you know when that'll happen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, the next public hearing is a special use permit for Popeyes.
Yep. I can give a,
Go ahead.
okay. HZ Ops Holdings, Inc., Bo Sisson, is seeking a special use permit to allow 2 additional wall signs on the proposed Popeyes restaurant at 6593 Route 132. The applicant is in attendance tonight. The sign code would allow 3 illuminated channel letter signs totaling up to 274.2 square feet in size, and the applicant is requesting a total of 271.9 square feet of signage divided into 5 signs. In regards to the requested special use permit, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the village board for their determination.
Thank you, Clara. First, is there anyone that's going to testify on this matter that wasn't sworn in before?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay. At this time, I'll turn the floor over to HZ Ops.
I'm here on behalf of HZ Operations. I'm Jennifer with MRV Architects, and we're here requesting the additional signage just for added visibility and directional purposes, just given we don't have any entrance off of Grand Avenue, and it's through the access drive behind. We do want the additional signage at the rear of the building to get as many customers from Home Depot and the other site to the west. there's not a lot of visibility from the street. We don't have a monument sign. Our monument sign will have a panel on the two signs on the bank side of things, so it'd be nice to get traffic from both the west and the east off of Grand Avenue to get those two signs on the side of the building.
Okay, thank you. Questions from members of the board? Okay, I'll open the floor. Did you have something, Dave?
I was just going to make a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, my only comment, I'm comfortable with the request, because basically, we're not looking at a net increase of the total square footage that would have been permitted on the building to begin with. We're just carving it up and allocating it differently. So, given that, and, with the pin, channel pin, a little bit higher quality too. So I think in exchange, I think it's a reasonable request.
Okay.
Thank you.
I concur. I mean, the total square footage is less than what they're allowed by right, so. Okay, I'm going to open the floor to the public. Is there anyone here that would care to make a comment on this matter? Close the floor to the public. Any additional planning and zoning board member comment? If not, a motion would be in order.
So I'll make a motion to forward a favorable recommendation on the petition of HZ Ops Holding Incorporated, Beau Sasan, for special use permit to allow 2 additional wall signs on the proposed Popeyes building located at 6593 Route 132 in substantial conformance with the sign plan dated 2/12/2021.
Second by Mr. Bao. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bow.
Aye.
Garrity.
Aye.
Norhuck.
Aye.
Cap.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
And Sue.
Aye, motion carries. And as you heard me say before, we recommend to the village board, and staff will let you know when the matter will go before them. All right. The next item is a final plat of subdivision for 6593 Route 132. Clara?
GWV Gurney LLC is seeking approval for a final plat of subdivision that would split the subject property at 6593 Route 132 into 2 separate lots. All public improvements associated with the 2 newly created lots are currently in place. The plat is accompanied with a reciprocal easement agreement that provides for perpetual non-exclusive cross-access and cross-parking. Staff has reviewed the subdivision and verified that it conforms to the Village of Gurnee subdivision, trees and woodlands protection and zoning ordinances. Engineering staff recommends that the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board forward a favorable recommendation to the Village Board of Trustees for the re-subdivision. On this matter, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination.
Okay. So simply stated, this is just the action required for the item that we just talked about a few minutes ago.
The subdivision.
Okay. Any questions? And this is the form of a recommendation, right? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dave.
I move that we forward a favorable recommendation on the final plat for GWV property subdivision for property at 6593 Route 132, as submitted.
A motion, a second by Mr. Bao. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bow.
Aye.
Garrity.
Aye.
Norhuck.
Aye.
Cap.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
And Sue.
Aye, motion carries. Next item, is parking modification for the property located at 6593 Route 132. Clara, you're on.
GWV Gurney LLC is seeking a parking modification, shared parking for the subject property. Code requires 15 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of GFA for a restaurant. For a bank, code requires 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of GFA, plus 3 stacking spaces for each drive-through lane. Therefore, U.S. Bank requires 17 parking spaces, and Popeyes requires 49 parking spaces, for a total of 66 spaces. With the existing site plan, U.S. Bank has 33 spaces, and Popeyes has 23, for a total of 56 spaces. GWV Gurney LLC is requesting a parking modification to allow shared parking, which will be allowed through a perpetual non-exclusive easement agreement, as the bank has excess of 16 spaces based on code. The Planning and Zoning Board has the final decision-making authority in this matter.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. I have really no issue with the parking spaces. I think that with a bank, as we kind of read some of the analysis in here, truly the amount of walk-up people into the bank is lessened, and people mostly go through drive-throughs. Something we may even need to take a look at, the amount of parking spaces needed in the future for retail development. It's something for another time, but I think, in my opinion, the parking spaces are more than adequate, as long as it's a shared, as agreed in here, a shared usage.
And it certainly is a position that's in accordance with Mr. Greaves' review as well. So, all right, is someone willing to advance a motion? Go ahead, Laura.
Motion to approve the request of GWV Gurney LLC for a parking modification, shared parking at 6593 Route 132, subject to a substantial conformance with the site plan last revised on 3/15/2021, and the provision of a perpetual non-exclusive cross-parking easement.
Have a second? Second by Mr. Bao. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Norhuck.
Aye.
Camp.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye, motion carries. And just, I'd like to make a final comment. It's really great to see this site being repurposed. It's been vacant for some time, and it's a visible corner. So good luck with the projects. Next meeting is scheduled for May 19th. Are we going to have anything?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No public hearings.
Not a public hearing, but, okay. All right, I'll open the floor to the public. Close the floor to the public. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Very good.